Flip over almost any bag of flour tortillas in America, and you will find a phrase on the front that is legally allowed to be a lie. It says 0 grams trans fat. Then read the ingredient list on the back, and there it is, hydrogenated oil. Both statements are on the same package, and both are technically legal, because the FDA lets any manufacturer round anything under half a gram down to 0. So a tortilla can contain trans fat, list the source of that trans fat in the ingredients, and still print 0 grams on the front of the bag. Eat 3 of them, and the math that said 0 quietly stops being 0. That is one loophole. I pulled the actual ingredient panels for every major tortilla brand in the country, cross-referenced the parent companies, and traced which authentic, healthy, and whole wheat labels are covering for the same industrial formula underneath. 8 tortilla brands you should put back. 2 that are actually made from real wheat, the way a tortilla was made before dough conditioners existed. We go from lower concern to the most serious. One thing to know before we start. A real tortilla needs 4 things: flour or ground grain, water, fat, and salt. Everything on the avoid list has taken that 4-ingredient food and turned it into a 20-ingredient shelf-stable product, engineered to survive months in a warehouse. Let's get into it. Number 8. Great Value Flour Tortillas, Walmart. This is the default. The bag that goes in the cart because it is cheap. It is stacked by the entrance. And tortillas are tortillas. Before you judge it, understand what it actually is. Because at this price, the formula has to cut every corner that exists. The Great Value Flour Tortilla is built on enriched bleached flour, hydrogenated or intra-esterified soybean oil, and a stack of dough conditioners and preservatives that hold the texture soft through a long retail window. Enriched bleached flour is the tell. The wheat is stripped of its bran and germ, the parts that carry the fiber and nutrients, then bleached, then refortified with synthetic vitamins to replace a fraction of what the processing removed. What is left is a fast-digesting refined starch with a glycemic response closer to white bread than to anything you would call whole grain. The preservative system typically includes calcium propionate and sorbic acid to stop mold, plus fumaric acid and mono and diglycerides to keep the tortilla pliable for weeks. None of that is in a tortilla made in a kitchen. It is in this one because the product has to look and feel fresh long after it stopped being fresh. Walmart moves this at enormous volume to the households buying on price. The 80 cents you saved bought a refined flour product engineered for shelf life, not for you. Number 7. Old El Paso Flour Tortillas, General Mills. Old El Paso owns Taco Night, the yellow box, the stand and stuff kit, the brand that a generation of families associates with a specific weeknight dinner. That nostalgia is doing a lot of work, because the tortillas inside are a standard industrial formula wearing a heritage costume. Old El Paso is owned by General Mills, a conglomerate with over $19 billion in annual revenue. And the flour tortillas run on the same playbook as the rest of the category. Refined wheat flour, added sugar, hydrogenated or fully processed vegetable shortening, and mono and diglycerides as emulsifiers. Mono and diglycerides deserve a specific note. They are functionally fats that behave like emulsifiers, and because of a regulatory classification quirk, they are exempt from the trans fat line on the nutrition panel entirely, even when they are manufactured through the same hydrogenation process that produces trans fat. It is a second way that trans fat can be present in a tortilla and invisible on the label. The added sugar is the other quiet problem. A savory flatbread does not need sugar. It is there to improve browning and mask the flatness of cheap flour. You are getting a dessert ingredient folded into a dinner product, marketed on a memory of family taco nights that the current formula has very little to do with. Number 6. Guerrero Flour Tortillas, Gruma. Guerrero is positioned as the authentic choice, the brand with Spanish-language packaging and the implication that this is what tortillas are supposed to taste like, made by people who know. Here is the part the packaging does not mention. Guerrero is owned by Gruma, the largest tortilla and corn flour producer on the planet, the same corporation that owns the #1 brand on this list, Authentic and industrial-scale multinational are not opposites here. They are the same company. The Guerrero flour tortilla ingredient panel is the industry standard: enriched bleached flour, intraesterified and hydrogenated soybean oil, and the full preservative and conditioner stack: calcium propionate, sorbic acid, sodium metabisulfite, mono and diglycerides. Sodium metabisulfite is worth flagging specifically. It is a sulfite preservative, and sulfites are one of the additives the FDA requires, disclosed precisely because they can trigger serious reactions in people with asthma or sulfite sensitivity. It is in a product marketed on authenticity, and there is nothing authentic about a sulfite dough conditioner. The authentic positioning is a marketing lane, not a formula difference. Underneath the Spanish script and the traditional imagery is the exact same Gruma industrial tortilla sold under the English language flagship. You are paying for a story the ingredient list does not support. Number 5. La Banderita, Ole Mexican Foods. La Banderita leans even harder into the authenticity angle. Traditional, made the real way, the flag on the bag. Ole Mexican Foods has built the brand around the idea that this is closer to a handmade tortilla than the big national labels. The ingredient panel is where that claim meets reality. The standard La Banderita flour tortilla carries the same refined flour base, the same hydrogenated shortening, and the same dough conditioner system as every other industrial brand, with the added marketing weight of authentic doing the persuasion. The specific issue with La Banderita is the gap between the handmade imagery and the shelf life. A genuinely traditional tortilla, made with flour, water, fat, and salt, goes stale in a day or two. It has to, because there is nothing in it to stop that. A tortilla that stays soft and pliable in a sealed bag on a shelf for weeks is not doing that naturally. The preservatives are the reason, and the preservatives are the opposite of what traditional is selling. There is a simple test for the entire authentic tier of this category. Read how long the bag says it lasts. Then ask what had to be added to make that possible. The answer is always the same list, and it is always the thing the front of the bag is trying to make you forget. Number 4. Tumeros, and the low-carb wrap category. This is the health store move, the wrap marketed on what it removes: low-carb, high-fiber, keto-friendly, protein-packed, sold at a premium to people specifically trying to eat better. The problem is what gets added back to hit those numbers. To drive the carb count down and the fiber count up, low-carb wraps replace a large portion of the flour with isolated fibers and wheat protein isolates, modified wheat starch, oat fiber, vital wheat gluten, and added cellulose or other isolated fiber sources. The result is a product that scores well on a nutrition panel and is, by any real definition, ultra-processed. It is not flour, water, fat, salt. It is a reconstructed food assembled from fractionated ingredients to produce a specific set of label numbers. The high-fiber figure that sells the product often comes from isolated functional fibers that behave very differently in the body than the intact fiber in an actual whole grain. And for a lot of people, in quantity, they produce significant digestive distress. These wraps also lean heavily on the same emulsifiers and dough conditioners as everything else, plus gums to hold a structure that has had most of its actual flour engineered out of it. You are paying the most for the product furthest from an actual tortilla, on the belief that a good nutrition panel means good food. The panel was the design target, not the food. Number 3. Mission Carb Balance. Mission Carb Balance is the single most successful, healthy tortilla product in America. The soft taco that lets someone eat a burrito and feel like they made the responsible choice. It is number 3 because of how effectively the health positioning conceals the formula. Carb Balance hits its low net carb number the same way the low-carb wraps do, by replacing a large share of the flour with modified wheat starch, wheat gluten, and added fibers like cellulose gum and other isolated fibers. Cellulose gum is a processed additive derived from plant fiber. It is not dangerous in the acute sense, but its job here is to bulk up the fiber count and hold the texture of a product that has had much of its real flour removed. This is an ultra-processed food engineered to read as a health food. And it still contains the standard industrial fat and preservative system underneath the fiber engineering. Hydrogenated oils, mono and diglycerides, calcium propionate. The net carb concept itself is a marketing construct, not an FDA-regulated nutritional standard. It is calculated by subtracting fiber and sugar alcohols from total carbs, a formula the manufacturer controls by adding the exact isolated fibers that make the subtraction work. The number on the front of the carb balance bag is not a measurement of a healthier food. It is the output of a formula the company built the recipe specifically to satisfy. Number 2. Mission Whole Wheat Tortillas. This one earns its position because of the specific word on the front, whole wheat. That phrase exists on this bag to intercept exactly the shopper who is trying to avoid everything on this list. The person who read that whole grain is better and is looking for it in the tortilla aisle. Here is what they are actually buying. A Mission whole wheat tortilla can lead with whole wheat flour and still contain the entire industrial system. Hydrogenated or intrasterified soybean oil, added sugar, mono and diglycerides, datum, calcium propionate, and the rest of the dough conditioner stack. Choosing whole wheat here does not remove the hydrogenated oil. It does not remove the preservatives. It adds a modest amount of fiber to a product that is otherwise identical to the refined version sitting next to it, and charges more for the privilege. The health-conscious shopper reaches for it precisely because the front label promised the thing they wanted, and the back label delivered the thing they were trying to avoid. Datum deserves a specific call-out, because it appears across the mission line. It is diacetyl tartaric acid ester of mono and diglycerides, a synthetic dough strengthener that exists for one reason: to make industrial dough tolerate high-speed machinery and long storage without tearing. It has no place in a tortilla you would make at home. Its presence is a signature that you are holding a manufactured product, not a baked one, regardless of what the words whole wheat on the front are trying to tell you. Number 1. Mission Flour Tortillas, Gruma. The flagship, the best-selling flour tortilla in the United States, made by Gruma, the largest tortilla producer in the world. It is number 1 not because it is uniquely bad, but because it is the template every other brand on this list is copying, and because it demonstrates every trick in the category at once. Read the actual panel. Enriched bleached flour. Vegetable shortening listed as intrasterified and hydrogenated soybean oils. Then the working machinery of an industrial food. Distilled mono and diglycerides, datum, calcium propionate, and sorbic acid to preserve. Fumaric acid and sodium metabisulfite as dough conditioners. Cellulose gum, enzymes, and on several Mission products, BHT as an antioxidant. BHT, butylated hydroxytoluene, is a synthetic preservative that a number of countries restrict in food and that has been the subject of ongoing safety review over its long-term effects. It is in a tortilla because it extends shelf life and for no reason that benefits the person eating it. Then the loophole that opened this video. Mission's own published position confirms that their flour tortillas can list hydrogenated oil in the ingredients, while declaring 0 grams trans fat on the package, because the FDA permits anything under half a gram per serving to be rounded to 0. The company describes using a blend that keeps the per-serving number under that threshold. That is legal. It is also the exact mechanism by which a product containing hydrogenated oil advertises 0 trans fat to a shopper who is specifically trying to avoid it. One serving is a single tortilla. Most people eat 2 or 3. The rounding was designed for the serving. Your dinner was not. This is the most purchased tortilla in the country, and it is the clearest example of the entire problem. A 4-ingredient food rebuilt into a shelf-stable industrial product, sold on a label engineered to tell you the opposite of what is inside. That is the avoid list. 8 brands, 1 industrial formula, and a set of labels: authentic, healthy, whole wheat, 0 trans fat, all working to keep you from reading the panel. Now here are the 2 that are actually made from real wheat, with ingredient lists you can read out loud without needing a chemistry degree. Best option number 2. Alvarado Street Bakery Sprouted Wheat Tortillas. Alvarado Street does something the entire avoid list structurally cannot. They start with the actual grain. Instead of opening a bag of refined flour, they take whole organic wheat berries and soak them until they sprout, until the grain begins to actually germinate. Then grind the living sprouts into a wet dough. That is the base of the tortilla. Not powder, grain. The company states plainly that they never use artificial or chemical preservatives, no bromates, nothing artificial, and that this natural approach gives their products a genuinely short shelf life. Read that again, because it is the whole point. The short shelf life is the feature. It is proof there is nothing engineered in the tortilla to fake freshness. The ingredients are sprouted organic wheat, water, a little yeast, sea salt, and a touch of natural sweetness. No hydrogenated oil, no datum, no calcium propionate, no BHT. The product is organic and non-GMO project verified, and because it has no preservatives, it is best stored frozen and thawed as you use it. That one storage instruction tells you more about the integrity of the food than any front-of-bag claim on the avoid list. Best option number 1. Food for life. Ezekiel 4:9. Sprouted whole grain tortillas. This is the top of the entire category, and it earns it by being the furthest thing on the shelf from an industrial tortilla. Ezekiel 4:9. Tortillas contain absolutely no flour. None. They are made from freshly sprouted whole grains and legumes. Sprouted wheat, barley, millet, lentils, soybeans, spelt. Ground into dough while the grains are still alive from germination. The full ingredient list: organic sprouted wheat, filtered water, organic sesame seeds, organic sprouted soybeans, organic sprouted barley, organic sprouted millet, organic sprouted lentils, organic sprouted spelt, organic wheat gluten, sea salt. That is the entire label. Every item is a food you can picture. Read what is not there. No hydrogenated oil. In fact, no added oil at all. No added sugar. No yeast. No baking powder. No preservatives. No dough conditioners. No BHT. No datum. No mono and diglycerides. The combination of sprouted grains and legumes produces a complete plant protein, all 9 essential amino acids, with real fiber that comes from intact whole grain rather than from isolated cellulose engineered in to inflate a number. It is USDA organic, non-GMO project verified, and biochecked non-glyphosate certified, meaning the grain was tested for the herbicide residue that runs through so much of the conventional wheat supply. Like the Alvarado product, it has no preservatives, so you will find it in the freezer section and store it cold. Warm one on a dry pan, and it develops a nutty flavor that no amount of dough conditioner can manufacture, because the flavor is coming from actual sprouted grain, not from a formula built to imitate it. If you take one thing from this video, it is this: the tortilla aisle is the single easiest place in the grocery store to get fooled by the front of a bag. Authentic, whole wheat, low carb, zero trans fat. Every one of those claims is compatible with the same industrial formula underneath. So skip the front of the bag entirely and do 2 things. Read the ingredient list and count. 4 to 8 recognizable ingredients means you are holding food. 15 plus with hydrogenated oil, datum, mono and diglycerides, calcium propionate or BHT in the list means you are holding a shelf stability product shaped like a tortilla. And check where it is sold. The real ones are in the freezer, because real wheat does not last on a warm shelf for a month, and the brands that told you it could were counting on you never asking why.